It must be a huge logistical challenge running a soup van service, coordinating vans, food, volunteers, etc. How do you actually do it?
So I've got myself and another four staff and a whole group of drivers. My goal is to always let the volunteers, they turn up and they do what they need to do, get the food ready and get out there on the street and meet the people. And me and my team are literally in the back keeping the wheels turning. So making sure the vehicles are all serviced and safe.
Tell us then about your volunteers and the impact of their service.
Yeah, I mean it's huge. I mentioned we've got about four staff in the background, but we have at the moment just over 700 active volunteers.
What's personally driving you to be involved with St Vincent's de Paul and doing this type of work?
So
Our guest, Toa Threadgold, the Victorian Soup Van Operations Manager, is here to tell us about his work and the power of supportive community connections. I'm Ian Bunston. Welcome to Monday Matters. Welcome, Toa. Great to have a chat with you this morning.
thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Toa, before we get into your soup van service work, can you give us an overview of what St Vincent's de Paul does?
Yeah, so Vinnies in Victoria has been operating since 1854, so 171 years, which is amazing. And it was the first set up in Australia, started in France many years before that. And today we do everything from social housing. We're building a 14-story social housing building in Footscray at the moment. We do the soup vans, of course. We do education and tutoring programs, and then home visitation services as well. So volunteers and members going out into the community to help people where they're at.
It's a very large, far-reaching organization.
Yeah.
It must be a huge logistical challenge running a soup van service, coordinating vans, food, volunteers, etc. How do you actually do it?
Yes, it is. No day is the same, that's for sure. So I find I've got myself and another four staff and little group of drivers as well. And my goal is to always let the volunteers, they turn up and they do what they need to do, get the food ready and get out there on the street and meet the people. And me and my team are literally in the back keeping the wheels turning. So making sure the vehicles are all serviced and safe. Maybe a vehicle goes in for a service. We need to rotate the fleet around. I'm paying the bills, all the food bills that come in. Um, we've got a new hub coming up, so working with architects to make sure that the building is all, right for what services we do. Working with donors, government, there's all those linkages in there. But that goal to always let the volunteers focus on that frontline service and take care of all that, administrative bureaucracy stuff that goes on in the background.
Tell us then about your volunteers and the impact of their service.
Yeah, I mean it's huge. I mentioned we've got about four staff in the background, but we have at the moment just over 700 active volunteers that are out there every day of the week, 365 days of the year. So, all those holidays, Christmas Day, New Year's Day, they're out there really supporting the community. And it's a really great mix of, I think we worked it out recently. It's about a third of our volunteers, 18 to 25, another third, 25 to 60, and then another third, 60 to, I think we have a volunteer in their 80s as well. So it's just a beautiful mix of the community that are just so interested in getting out there, giving out their time to help vulnerable Victorians.
So, what about those folk who receive the services of the soup vans? What type of response do you get from those folk?
Look, it can be a real lifeline. We've changed our service over that 50 years. It used to be very much soup and sandwiches and a chat. The human connection is always been at the heart of what we do. And then coming out of COVID, we realized people really needed more support, a bit longer support to get through maybe a week. Cost of living, mortgage pressures, all those things we've all heard about. We're seeing that on the front line. So we've expanded the service to help people. You could be a couple, they're both in full-time work, but they're just not able to meet ends meet. So we've got pasta, we've got milk, we've got cereals. So they're kind of set for some of those meals for the week. Then they can focus on paying the mortgage, the rent, medical bills, petrol, all those other things. So we're just helping them get through those really, really tough times.
I'm really proud to admit that I'm one of your volunteers that drives one of your vans. And
Yes.
one of the things that stands out to me, Tao, when I connect with the people on the street and who we're dealing with, is their sense of gratitude.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It's that just reminds me of a really lovely story. Because at the heart of what we do and the organization, so Vincent de Paul, is offering that hand up and not a hand out. Because we really want to help people get up by themselves and then, tackle life the way that they want to do. And if we can do just a little bit to get there, that's kind of the main job. And I had a guy come up to me one day when I was out on the street, and he came and gave me $15. And I was like, "Oh, thank you. That's really lovely. You don't have to do that." He's like, "No, Vinnie Soup Vans helped me many years ago get back on my feet, and I know it's not much, but I want to give back to you now." And I was like, "That's really lovely." And he walked off, and I saw him turn around and come back, and I was like, "Okay." And he's like, "Can I have the $15 back?" And I was like, "Oh, sure, that's fine." He's just changed his mind. Um, but then he gave me $20. And at this stage, he was in tears, and he said, "You really have no idea how much the soup vans helped me when I really needed it most." And then he walked off. And it was a really special moment, and it was just that real. I think it was a full circle moment for this guy where he no longer needed our services, but it had really helped him to get to a better place.
That's a beautiful story.
Mm.
Tara, the suit vans, they go out at all different times of the day, and you've already mentioned this earlier. Can you describe like what a typical shift looks like?
Yeah, for sure. So we have six different sites across the state, and 15 vehicles that are out, like I said, every night of the week. But like a usual day at a soup van, we'll have like a food prep team that might come in about 4 o'clock. They've got a couple of hours to, get the fruit, chop up some fruit and veg, make soup, make sandwiches, pack up the vans. And then around 6 o'clock, some of our different sites are different, but around 6 o'clock, they'll head out onto the street. We've got, publicly listed sites that we're going to turn up at this time for this amount of time. We'll set up all our tables, and then people will file past. Some people, if we're arriving at 6 o'clock, some people might have been lining up at 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock, to access our services. So people file past, they'll get all the food they need. They can have a soup, have a cup of coffee, have a chat if there's time, and then go on their way. And then volunteers come back, pack up. Always done by about 8:30, 9 o'clock.
So, Tara, it's a wonderful job that you're involved in our community and such one of need. It's essential. What's personally driving you to be involved with St. Vincent's de Paul and doing this type of work?
So I actually started as a soup band volunteer about 6 years ago. Um, I live in Footscray, and we have a soup van that comes around Footscray, and I saw it driving around, and I was like, that's something that I would really like to do. I want to give back to my local community, because I think for a lot of people, some of these big issues can be quite overwhelming, and they don't know where to even start to help. And I always say to people, just keep it local. Like, what's happening in your local area that you can manage and you can give back. And I saw the soup van in my local area, so I was like, that's something I want to do. I want to help my local community. So that's how I got involved with the soup vans. And then a job came up, and about 6 or so months later, I was like, well, I love volunteering, so it would be great to see the other side of that. And that was 2020. I started work with the soup vans, which is January 2020. I think we all know what happened just 2 months later. So that was an interesting time to start a new job. But yeah, like 3 years later, became the operations manager. So it was just a really nice journey from volunteer. It also gives me some, I know where the volunteers are coming from as well, coming from that space.
So you mentioned just earlier that you really liked volunteering. Can you just drill down a tiny bit in that? Well, why do you really enjoy it?
Yeah, I guess, look, I think from a very young age, my family is one that gives back in a lot of different areas. So I think I was brought up in that way. But I'm just so interested in giving back to where I live in my community and just kind of helping in some of those bigger issues, but on a more local level. And it's just that connection. I love talking to people, and the conversations you have on the street are just amazing. And often the people that we speak to, that could be the only human connection they've had in a day, sometimes even in a week. There's some caravan parks that we go to that are quite isolated, and we know that the volunteers, they're the only people that they speak to in a week. So I think that's really important to me because I know loneliness and isolation is quite it's a really prevalent issue in our society today. And this is just one way that people can connect in. They get the food, of course. Actually, some people turn up just to have a coffee and a chat. It's that human connection that's really at the heart of what we do.
So, Tara, from what you've said today, I'm hoping, and maybe someone's been inspired to get involved in this type of voluntary work. How do
Yeah.
they go about it?
Yeah, so on the Vinnies Victoria website, there is a soup bands page and people can register there. Um, and then there's also an email address there. People might want to do a fundraiser. That's another way people can get involved. Fundraiser at their office or at a school, whatever they want to do. But that's probably the main ways. Yeah.
So I'm really in awe and amazement of what St Vincent's de Paul does in so many areas. And today's been a focus on the soup bands and volunteers and the impact that they have on so many people who are marginalised, who are in real need in our community.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
it's been delightful to have you as a guest here at Monday Matters today. Thank you very much for sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.